Ed Commissioner is here. Lots on our plate tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Our Education Commissioner Ken Wagner is our guest this evening, and I'm going to forego the daily routine of checking on the issues because he and I always get into some really important and sometimes lengthy conversations about the education business here in the state. Welcome in on this Thursday evening. The nurses' strike continues, and it's on program. Very strange. You know, we're going to strike for 3 days. Oh, no, you're not. You're going to go for 4. I'm not sure what gets accomplished by all of that, but we'll keep tabs on that and try to follow up next week on what was learned by a week's worth of job action this week. In the meantime, you know, Washington is what it is, so we'll just kind of, the commissioner might have some thoughts on what's coming out of Washington in general and or educationally. But let's start with a story that was dominating our conversation on the radio on WPRO weekdays 3 to 6 yesterday afternoon. It is this financial challenge that the city of Warwick has.
As school buses pick up kids across Warwick this year, parents might be billed. Eyewitness News obtained this waiver request from the Warwick Schools Superintendent, Philip Thornton, to Ken Wagner, the state's Education Commissioner. It says because of a decrease in state and city funding, the school committee needs to take dramatic steps like charging parents $1 per day for children to ride the bus. The mayor disagrees with charging parents.
Well, it's kind of disheartening to me, especially since I think it was a multi-million-dollar contract for school bus services that never went out to bid. Maybe if they went out to bid, they could have saved $1 million or $2 million.
An audio recording of the last school committee meeting reveals members got emotional as they learned what could be cut to balance a $6 million deficit.
I'm really just gutted we're at this point. I'm sorry.
Once again, all these cuts I'm telling you are awful. It's hard to go through this list.
In May, Thornton urged the public to push the council into giving them more money to fill the deficit.
The city funding level in 2010 is the same funding we're getting right now.
But the council approved a little over $1 million, leaving the committee to cut the rest.
It's not how much money you have, but how wisely you spend it.
That's what Shakespeare said, right? The mayor of Warwick is hardly Shakespeare. The commissioner. Was that Shakespeare? I don't know. I'm sure you're.
I'm staying out of this one.
Ken Wagner, the Commissioner of Education. Before I get into that, welcome. Good to have you. Every time you're back, I say, how are you dealing with this Rhode Island thing? Is it growing on you?
Yeah, it's great here.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
It's all good?
All good.
Any different? Same problems?
Yeah.
Same challenges? Nothing unique to this culture?
I think, like many things in Rhode Island, the size of the state can produce really great opportunities, which is we can connect and get things done in ways that people in bigger states maybe they can't do, and the size can also be a challenge. So.
Yes. Well, that's the pat, smart, diplomatic, and correct answer. This Warwick thing is fascinating. Short answer, are you going to give the waivers?
So it's really not very fascinating. There's a dispute. There's a financial dispute between the town council and the school committee. The school committee wants $6 million more than the town council authorized. There's a process in statute, it's called the Carullo Act, to resolve that dispute. A necessary first step to that process is send a letter to the commissioner trying to cut your costs so you can balance your budget. So this is really a first step in a dispute between the school committee and the town council. I'm just a small piece in that first step.
Remind everybody what the Carullo Act does.
So the Carullo Act, it used to be that the commissioner had the authority to resolve disputes between about funding between the school committee and the town council. That was taken away and it was put, you basically have to sue each other in court. And in order to sue each other, you have to go through some steps first. The very first step is once you adopt your budget, you have to write a letter to try to close that $6 million gap to me. I take a look at it. These things, as the superintendent said on the news clip, are terrible things, and they're all things that are addressed in state statute. So I'll respond to their letter, and then they move on with their dispute resolution.
So the waiver request is kind of a red herring, is what you're saying. Or, I mean, it might be a small part of the process, but you're not going to act on it, is what you're telling me.
Oh, I have 15 days to respond to the waiver request.
And what are you going to do?
I'm going to respond to the waiver request within 15 days.
Do you know how?
Yeah, I mean, you can read the waiver and you can read the law and you can see that they're asking about things that are mostly, if not entirely, addressed in law, and I don't have the authority to waive law. So we're doing our due diligence, we're reviewing things line by line, but I think when you try to cut $6 million from a school district budget, you're cutting into bone, and the only way to cut into bone is to address big things, and those big things tend to be protected by statute.
Yeah, you see, and all these disputes and these Cruel Act disputes. And you know, I've had long editorial on the Cruel Act. You know, forcing these bodies into litigation is really not very healthy. It's just
it's expensive.
It's very expensive. But in a lot of ways, it seems to me what you're telling me. This is interesting reading, but within 15 days, you're probably going to say the law is the law. And these concepts, though, because we were talking about them, you know, charging for sports, charging for busing, the references are, hey, Mass does it. Hey, Mass does it. So, you know, can you give us a break here? Do you see a time here when we're going to start allowing for districts to charge a couple $100s a year for a parent to put a kid on a bus?
Typical, what I'm familiar with is if something's viewed to be part of the core instructional mission, typically in most states, in New York, for example, where I worked for a while, you have to cover those costs for all students. You typically only have discretion in optional services. Massachusetts has some things that are based on the unique situations in Massachusetts law and so on. I don't see Rhode Island's law changing anytime soon, because when laws like that change, they typically get proposed over several years before they're in an action phase, and nobody's been proposing these kinds of changes.
Okay, so this is something that would have to come from the legislature. You're not looking at any, and by the way, they're looking for parental bus, family bus contribution, participation in sports, which drives me crazy, because I've always thought, Mass does it too, but I've always thought, look, you know, it's a representation of the school district, the town. Mm-hmm. You put Cranston East on your shirt. I mean, the taxpayers ought to be, oh, not every kid plays ball. Well, you know what? And then ripping away charter school money, which is it's like dynamite. And it's been a lull in the last year or so. The charter public confrontation has had a low burner place, but we can't do that, right? You're not going there. All right, he's not going there. It's as simple as that. Guy, of all the folks in the stoic category, in the category of stoic guests, the commissioner generally wins that award.
My team pokes me to make sure I'm still breathing.
Let me ask you this, though. I have believed for a long time that our government structure is not functional. In Mass, there's something they do very well and very smart, I think, and that is the head of state, the mayor and/or the town administrator, sits as chair of the school board, creates a synergy. Mm-hmm. Instead, now we have mayor, council, school board, hire superintendent, mayor, council, allocate lump sum, then there's a fight. There seems to be very little, but the general public always seems to go back to a mayor or a town administrator when it comes to school funding issues, because they don't really even understand the process.
Yeah.
You have a thought on the structure of how Rhode Island runs its show?
I do, and it's something that I've been talking about for some time. The structural disconnect between the authority of the school committee and the mayor and the town or city council is a big deal, because they're often pointing at each other and they're not aligned in terms of the vision of how they're going to educate youth. There's three different ways to do it. One is, in some states, the school committee has tax levy authority over school expenses, so it all resides with the school committee. In some states, it all resides with a municipality. A third way would be to require a common approach for the major drivers of expenses, which are your collective bargaining agreements, your personnel agreements. So what you can have is a school committee, for example, encumbering a big obligation through a contract, but the town or city council is expected to pay for it. The town or city council might have no idea how difficult it was to come to agreement. The school committee may say, how come you can't just raise taxes? So they're talking past each other. I believe it's part of the reason why we got into our facilities challenge, because when you have these disagreements over budgets, the easiest place to cut is the maintenance of your school buildings. And when you cut the maintenance of your school buildings for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you end up with crumbling school facilities like we have now. So to really address this problem long term, Either school committee needs to be given taxing authority, or the municipality needs to have the authority over school policy, or they need to be required in some way, for example, agreement on collective bargaining agreements. So there's alignment on the major drivers of expenses.
I think that makes sense. How we come there is the multi-million-dollar question. On the school buildings, you know, the governor's last proposal, she's talking about $1 billion. It wasn't $1 billion. There's already $500 million baked in already into the budget. And $250 million has already been spoken for in the first round, another $250 million in a couple of years, and I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. Do you think it's enough?
The numbers to get all the way are big numbers, but $1 billion over 5 years, which you're right, combines the annual appropriation, the bond issue, as well as the local contribution, is a big chunk. There's a natural slowing down on these kinds of projects anyway. Even if we decided all at once to do all of the work and we had all the money, we couldn't do. So the fact that we're doing a first pass, and then we'll see how far we get with that first investment, and then we'll see what else is needed, if anything, isn't a bad strategy.
All right, when we come back, there's some programs the Commissioner would like to talk to us about. Stay with us. So in the political season, education comes up peripherally or on the surface. It never comes up in any kind of deep fashion. That kind of bugs me. I wish candidates could dig a little deeper. Even the incumbents. Governor Raimondo just pulled out the Rhode Island Promise deal again. She had her program for free tuition in the universities and CCRI whittled down to just CCRI, which I supported, by the way. I don't support 2 years of free college education at URI or RIC. Do you, Commissioner? Do you have a thought on that? I mean, it's not your bailiwick by authority, but do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, the model that we're trying to bring to all of our work is tighter integration of our different systems. So we have the K-12 system that I'm responsible for. We have the economic development system and the workforce development system, Scott Jensen, Heather Hudson, Stephen Pryor. And then we have the higher ed systems. And those systems work best when they're tied to each other. So you don't do workforce development over there and education training over here. You do it together. You train people for real jobs that exist. It's Real Jobs Rhode Island. What the governor's proposal is doing is making a strategic investment. It's not a handout, it's an investment to make sure that the K-12 system and the higher ed system are joined together, because if you do your job in the K-12 system, there's a seat that's waiting for you in the higher ed system. So in that sense, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just a question of where you want to invest your money, and the governor's making the decision to invest in those joined systems, not as a handout to kids, but as an investment in our economy and as an equity issue for students, so everyone has the same shot at a college education.
All right, so I'm going to let him off the hook on that, because if I go any deeper with the Commission on this, there'll be figurative blood on the table here, because I just find this last effort to be nothing more than a political swing to the left, because she's got a little trouble from the left. Although I will tell you that my good friend Dr. Dooley and I battle about this too. Frank Sanchez and I at RIC battle about this. Of course, you know, Megan won the day at CCRI because she got her 2 years of free tuition for kids who were on track. Maybe I'm still sore from having written that check, you know, and how you balance that on the consumer and student side. Those who have paid for it then say, what? But especially when URI and RIC, I think, are the best. Maybe the best in the region, if not in the country, in the top whatever of return on investment. They are phenomenal institutions with pretty good pricing comparatively.
Yep.
So,
but so the corollary to that is go deeper on the return on investment analysis. If K-12 is producing graduates into colleges, what is the evidence that those graduates are succeeding, and what is the evidence that those K-12 graduates are getting jobs in the sectors that we want them to? If the public institutions are getting taxpayer dollars to support the tuition, then what's the evidence that they're actually producing outcomes that matter for the economy and matter for people's life outcomes? So if it would make perfect sense to go along with that strategic investment to be more transparent about the return on investment metrics, because we do not have very transparent return on investment metrics across higher ed or even across K-12. We're building those into our...
Not just here.
Not just here, across the country.
Period.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. Did you get all that? That was a pretty sophisticated answer. I'm going to go back to performance in our next segment, but you've got a new program, or a continuing, is it new or a continuing program for teacher development?
Yeah, so we've been spending the last 3 years around this idea of student pathways. Our kids are different, so their journey through our educational system should be different, not only to match their interests, strengths, and passions, but also to match the kinds of jobs that they might want to have, the kinds of jobs that we're trying to grow in our economy. And that's been very successful. We've really transformed how we do career education and how we do individualized learning. It's reflected on their diploma that they got a certain kind of pathway and so on. Now we're taking that model of pathways and taking it over to the teacher space, that if we want teachers to support the pathways for students, then we have to have a strategy for ongoing learning for teachers that's not just drive-by one-offs where we give, you know, the same auditorium space to all the teachers in the district and pretend like it's relevant for them, but teacher ongoing learning that's really tied to the actual job that they're doing and the actual things that are going to move the needle for their kids.
So how are you doing it?
So we have a set of regulations that we've been talking with the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education since April. We've gotten lots and lots of feedback. We've modified it along the lines. We hope that the Council will vote in August to put it out for a formal public comment and then for potential adoption in the fall.
What's the simple takeaway for the viewer? What is it that what's the ask?
The simple takeaway is that we need to have a commitment that all teachers, as a condition of their certification, need to do ongoing professional learning like other professions do, but in response to that requirement, that we should build systems of support for teachers that are actually meaningful and relevant to the jobs that they're going to do, so it'll actually help them advance their professional craft and advance their
You find teachers have an appetite for this, or find this as another burden?
No, see, what they find a burden is that the current professional learning that we do is often a waste of their time. We asked teachers across the state, we got 80% of our teachers responded, and about 70% of those teachers said their professional learning was a waste of their time. And that's a number that pops up all across the country. So if we're going to do this and have learning professional pathways for teachers, we need to step up and put the same kinds of design principles in place so the teacher pathways are as good for teachers as the student pathways are for students.
Is this something ends up being a negotiating thing, collective bargaining, or is this something outside that realm?
It would be a statewide requirement. Districts that have already bargained professional learning days for teachers, then of course they'd have to reconcile what they already bargained with any new requirements. But the requirement is not on the district. The requirement is on the teacher as a condition of renewal of their certification.
Bullish on this happening?
People have been talking about this for 10, 15 years, and that's typically the idea. It's not Ken Wagner came up with a brilliant idea from someplace else. This is something that we've been talking about. The problem has always been that we didn't do professional learning well, but we did a lot of work in the student space. We have something called an advanced course network, which is we bring non-traditional providers, nonprofit organizations, colleges, public colleges, private colleges, other districts, to make offerings to kids that parents and kids can opt into for things that school districts might not be able to afford on their own. We're going to bring the same structure to teacher learning, that if a district can't afford to do calculus professional development, art professional development, school, special education professional development well for all of their teachers, from a first-year teacher to a 30-year veteran, let's bring a network of providers to the table so teachers can get professional learning that makes sense to them. It's the same work that Scott Jensen's doing in workforce development. Real Jobs Rhode Island is about building an ecosystem of providers, having a mixed delivery model because learners are different depending on their style of learning and where they are in their baseline, and have what's called on-ramps and off-ramps. What I need in 2018 is going to be different than what I need in 2020. So we're trying to bring those exact same design principles that we brought for workforce development and we brought into student pathways. We're trying to bring those same things into teacher pathways so we don't waste teachers' time and we don't insult them.
Hearings are pending. The hearings are coming in the fall?
In the fall.
Okay, we'll pay more attention to that in the fall. When we come back, we're shifting our testing platforms. We'll talk about that next. So if you have a 72-inch screen, you could probably see some of that data right there, but that's one of the forums that you could find on WPRI.com and Dan McGowan's work. He's a terrific writer, and I asked our friend Erica Sanzi, who's kind of our go-to, what do you think about education person who writes good school hunting, the blog. You read the blog? You should read the blog.
Sure, I do.
She's a smart, good egg, and has a lot of good thoughts. Our park testing, not so great. I mean, language skills, reading a little bit better, a little bit of progress, but the math in the dumper, right? What's going on? Why? Why are we not making any progress in math in the state?
Yeah, one of the things that we've been talking more and more about is in math development, and this goes all the way from kindergarten into college math. We have a problem with fractions. Fractions as numbers on the number line. If you ask Americans whether they prefer a quarter pounder or a third pounder, most Americans will pick a quarter pounder because the number 4 is bigger than the number 3.
They think it's bigger?
Because the number 4 is bigger, so they think the ratio is bigger.
No, that can't be right.
It's surveys that have been done.
Come on.
So we have a problem with fractions. We still teach fractions as part over whole, and it's not understood as a number on the number line. And that starts in 3rd grade. Between 3rd grade and 5th grade, kids either get a deep understanding of fractions or they don't get a deep understanding
Amen, brother.
of
Let me
fractions.
tell you something. I don't want to make this speech again, but you weren't here, so you're not responsible. But there were days when I thought I was going to do a 1-month lawsuit against the state of Rhode Island for the child abuse they provided my child, ages 3rd, I get grades 3rd, 4th, and 5th with investigations math, and the theories of the algorithms versus just learning what multiplication tables and multiplication, division, fractions, and to this day, I don't mean to point at you, I get really upset. To this day, she's a grad student who has to go, oh, hold on a second. Boy, did I learn later how important 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade is in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 3rd through 5th grade is where, just like 3rd grade reading is where you crack the code for reading fluency, the rest of your life is different. 3rd to 5th grade, by 5th grade, if you don't have a deep understanding of fractions, the rest of your life is different. And that leads into algebra, when you take algebra, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, that leads into whether or not you get access to calculus, statistics, quantitative analysis, computer science, and what really importantly, that drives whether or not you're placed into credit-bearing courses when you get to CCRI or Rhode Island College or not, because the math placement test drives more kids and more kids of first-generation college, kids of color, kids living in poverty into non-credit-bearing courses, and once you go into remediation math, you almost never comes out, which is why Megan Hughes at CCRI is changing the model for remediation math to her credit, to the university, to the college's credit, to try to get out of that pattern. But it all starts, President Hughes' challenge with math and an entrance placement test in CCRI starts with me and our 35 school districts in 3rd grade with whether or not we teach fractions.
I wish I started this earlier. All the conversation's been meaningful. I only have 45 seconds. So you know the problem, the fraction problem. What's the 30-second fix?
So it's tied back to that ongoing professional learning, because we don't do an amazing job of teaching math knowledge to our teacher prep candidates while they're in college.
Are our teachers sharp enough about the math to teach it well?
We need to do a better job of training all people, little people, students, big people, adults and teachers, math. And then we need to do a better job of helping everybody to teach the math. This ongoing professional learning, one of our major state priorities is going to be the professional learning around teaching fractions. And it's a huge equity issue. And I'd love to come back and talk more about it.
Well, I'll come back on the radio in a couple of weeks as we get toward school time, and we can talk about this, because that you're so quick with an answer is both a relief and horrifying at the same time, you know? I appreciate your accessibility and your good work. What are you doing in the city of Warwick? What are you going to do with final word when we come back? All right, I'm going to ask a lot of people over the course of this weekend, what's a bigger sandwich, the quarter pounder or the 3rd pound? Is that what they call it, the third? I'll figure out what the brand name is of a third of a pound hamburger and see who can figure that out. Because if that's really true, and I don't think the commissioner's here to fib, if that's really true, holy cow, are we dumb? Hey, listen, Mike Stanton, who wrote the book on Rocky Marciano, tomorrow night, and I'll see you on the radio at 3 on WPRO. Good night.